On December 7, 1941, a tragic event occurred in American history that still haunts the nation to this day. It was a turning point in World War II and led to the defeat of Hitler and Japan. The attack on Pearl Harbor forced America to develop destructive weapons like the atomic bomb, which caused massive destruction and loss of life. Japan's primary goal that day was to destroy all of the US Navy's aircraft carriers, but it failed to do so. Despite knowing that America was a powerful country, Japan still carried out the attack. The video will explain the details of what happened that day and why Japan attacked. So, watch till the end. December 7th, 1941. It was Sunday at 7:30 a.m. Many warships were detected by American air traffic radar at Pearl Harbor. At that time, American naval officers were alarmed because America had not yet entered the war, so why so many ships were approaching Pearl Harbor? They don't realize it's coming. Immediately red alert is issued. But it was too late. By 7:55 a.m., more than 200 Japanese warplanes entered Pearl Harbor's airspace, then began bombing, flying low and destroying the battleships below, leaving the American troops stunned by the surprise attack. The Japanese were dropping bombs on those warships, and many American soldiers were drowning in them. Many soldiers died in their sleep. Not only the warships or soldiers, but also the citizens were attacked by the Japanese. With only fire and smoke surrounding the continuous attack, in a few minutes, the appearance of Pearl Harbor was completely changed. The ship was wrecked, with about 1,000 soldiers on that one ship alone, who died instantly. This time, the American troops also counterattacked, but within minutes of their attack, the Japanese forces withdrew. The Americans, thinking that the Japanese Air Force had retreated. Now began the care of the wounded. The island was filled with cries. But within a few hours, the Japanese Air Force returned and resumed the attack as before. This time, the wounded men were also dying. No one could have imagined that the Japanese Air Force would attack a second time. The Japanese went back again after bombarding the area for 1 hour. They intended to attack 3 times in total, but with the damage they inflicted on the first 2 attacks, they were certain that they had halved the American naval strength. 2,403 American soldiers and civilians died in the Japanese attack, and more than 1,000 were injured. However, about 25 Japanese warplanes were also destroyed in the American counterattack. Now the question is, why did Japan attack? Because, at that time, America was not involved in World War II. Let me tell you that in detail. As calm and gentle as Japan is today, it was just as fierce about 80 years ago. At that time, Japan was imperialist. China, Thailand, Vietnam, and Korea were attacked by Japan one by one, and they occupied many surrounding countries. Their main aim was to dominate the whole of Asia. In 1931, when they occupied Manchuria, China, the amount of brutality the Japanese inflicted on the people of each occupied area is beyond imagination. Burning alive, rape of everyone from children to old women, amputation. So much torture. Western countries began to talk a little about Japan's brutality. But Japan does not stop there. By 1937, the Nanjing province of China was occupied by Japanese troops, and there, the massacre began. Thousands of Chinese people were killed and raped by Japanese soldiers for no reason. This incident is known in history as the Nanjing Massacre. America was shaken after this incident. At that time, the American government imposed economic sanctions on Japan. In world politics, no country has any permanent friends or neither any permanent enemies. They have only temporary interests. If you think that America puts sanctions on Japan because they want to save Chinese people, then you might be wrong. From the beginning of 1900, there was tension between Japan and America about China. On one side was America, who wanted to capture the market of a country like China. On the other side was Japan, who wanted to expand their empire. Japan wins between these two. It lost the Chinese market, on the other hand. Seeing the continuous brutality of the Japanese army, America imposed sanctions on Japan. However, Japan wanted to expand the Japanese empire to the whole of Asia. But because of American sanctions, they were hindered in this work. First of all, the Japanese military's warplanes and warships were powered by the oil supplied from America. In addition, as a result of the economic sanctions on Japan, Japan's economy also began to weaken gradually. As a result, this time the anger among the Japanese soldiers against America started to increase. Meanwhile, in 1939, Germany invaded Poland, starting World War II. At this time, Japan and Italy joined Germany. England and France were on the other side, and Russia joined them later. But America was distancing itself from this war. They continued to supply arms and war materials to both sides at that time. Their economy is getting stronger day by day. From 1939 to July 1941, as World War II escalated day by day, Germany began to expand its presence in Europe. But Japan was lagging at this time. As a result of the US sanctions, their speed was not the same as before. Japan's top military chiefs continue to hold talks with the USA to lift sanctions, but that doesn't solve it. Japan realized that if America was not removed from their path, Japan would not be able to survive World War II for long, and neither would the great Japanese empire they wanted to build. But America had a huge army at the time, and they had a powerful navy. Japan thinks that if they can somehow destroy this American fleet, then they will win the war with America. If you look at America and Japan on the map, you will see that the distance between Japan and America is very large. In between is the Pacific Ocean. However, there is a small island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean called the Hawaiian Islands. That was occupied by America. Among these islands, there's the port of Pearl Harbor near Honolulu, in which America had a huge military base. This one port was enough for America to have control over the entire Pacific Ocean. Japan decided to attack this port. The main target of the Japanese army was to destroy the American aircraft carriers in this port, so that American warplanes cannot refuel in this vast Pacific Ocean. And that would keep America out of the Pacific. Then it would become much easier for them to conquer Asia, and slowly they will be able to control America. Thus, the training begins. From the outset, the attack was highly secretive, so the American military had no clue that the Japanese might attack Pearl Harbor. In 1940 means about 1 year before the attack, the Japanese soldiers started training. In this training, they practiced flying the warplanes at very low altitudes, so they could target American aircraft very precisely. Also, it would help them to avoid the American radar. After 1 year of continuous training, the Japanese army chiefs fixed a day for the attack. The day was the 7th of December, 1941. Sunday, since this day is a holiday in America, most of the troops were either on leave or off duty, because in case of a surprise attack, they will not be able to launch a counterattack very quickly. Finally, Japan attacked on that day as per their planning. But at that time, Japan sent a strong threatening letter to America to lift the sanctions at 7:30, just half an hour before the attack. But before the letter could reach the Army's headquarters, Japan launched their attack at exactly 7:55 a.m. In this attack, the Japanese forces thought they had destroyed all the American aircraft carriers, but they were wrong. They destroyed a total of 20 naval vessels, 8 battleships, and 300 fighter planes that day. But they could not destroy a single aircraft carrier that day, because that day, aircraft carriers were not in Pearl Harbor. It was this one misjudgment by Japan that brought them into danger. This attack threw the entire world at that time. No one ever thought that Japan would attack America's Pearl Harbor. The reaction to the attack was also quite desirable. Just 2 days after the attack on December 9th, the US president passed a resolution in Congress declaring war on Japan. 2 days later, Germany and Italy declared war against America to protect their friend Japan. You all know what happened next. With America entering the war, Hitler's almost winning bet was lost. The equation of World War II changed. If you look at these things, you will understand that no country is completely a saint. When we see the incident of Hiroshima, it hurts us. It seems that America is the biggest human rights violator country. But behind this action of America, there was Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor. Again, the reason for the attack on Pearl Harbor was American sanctions, and the reason for that sanction was the hellish killing and rape in China and Korea by Japanese soldiers. And America's final response to the attack on Pearl Harbor was the atomic attack on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. If you want a dedicated video on this topic, please let me know in the comment box.